pancakes in Hamburg as President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin meet face-to-face for the first time today at the G20 summit in Germany.
President Putin and I have been discussing various things, and I think it's going very well. We've had some very, very good talks. We're going to have a talk now, and obviously that will continue. But we look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States, and for everybody concerned. And it's an honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you.
It was scheduled to last about 30 minutes, but the two leaders met for over 2 hours, even ignoring the First Lady, who gently tried to get them to wrap it up. And it appears there was at least one big accomplishment, an agreement to begin a limited ceasefire in Syria beginning on Sunday. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who was in the room where it happened, gave us some insight as to what else they discussed.
The President opened the meeting with President Putin by raising the concerns of the American people regarding Russian interference in the 2016 election. They had a very robust and lengthy exchange on the subject. The President pressed President Putin on more than one occasion regarding Russian involvement.
Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov cast the conversation in a different light, claiming that President Trump accepted Putin's assurances that Russia didn't meddle in the election. Now, Greg, before we delve into all of that, Hamburg or Hamburg?
Bah Hamburg. That's what I say. And CNN should say that, too, because Donald Trump started the meeting with Putin by raising concerns over the election meddling, according to Tillerson. That sound of a toilet flushing right now coming from Atlanta is CNN's bogus narrative, because they said, according to a source, that he would not confront him over that, and he did. So maybe they might refute that.
This was also, they did something like this just a few weeks ago, where they said, remember they had to correct it. They
Comey
said
was going to testify for that, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing too is I'm really, and I don't know if we're doing it on our network because I always watch the opposition or the people who set fires and throw rocks at people are not called protesters. Then all arsonists are protesters. People who bomb buildings, you could call them demolitionists. But all day I was at the gym. Not all day, but I'm watching. I'm watching MSNBC because if you're at a gym in New York City, all you're going to see is MSNBC or CNN because CNN bores people to tears and MSNBC doesn't offend you. So you're watching this, and all they're saying is, a protester is throwing rocks. A protester is setting fire. No, they're not a protester. They are a thug. Yeah. They are a criminal. And then they equate the cops with the protesters. They go, the protester did, the cops and the protesters are fighting. The cops started it. No, the cops are there because the thugs are
anarchists.
there.
The anarchists.
They're not even anarchists. They don't have any beliefs. They have no alternatives. They're there because they get cameras, and then MSNBC just films them and treats it so romantically. It makes you just scream.
You know what makes me nuts, though, is that these people are anti-globalist, anti-capitalist, and some of them are anarchists, as you described, and a lot of them are anti-Trump. But you see them somehow as all thugs, but guess what?
What?
I think a lot of them are in line with Donald Trump's anger at free trade, anger at climate deals, anger at no borders.
Find one who's against the climate deal, and I will give you $1,000.
No, but I'm saying,
no, I don't even have that. Find one.
You give me how much?
$1,000. You find one thug.
Right here.
So you find one thug. Find one thug who's against climate change. $1,000.
No, but you wanted to call these guys thugs, but I don't hear you say that when Trump people who are anti-trade.
They don't throw rocks and they don't set fire. Again, $1,000. Find a Trump protester who sets a car on fire.
I want in on this. Can I get some of this action?
Jesse wants $1,000.
This is like you draw a circle, you know, and the Trump people here and Bernie people here. Yeah. And you know what? They kind of meet.
So
but they're not violent.
So guess what, Juan?
Yeah.
This segment, we are going to talk about the protesters later on in the show.
Are we?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, but we'll get to it. But,
no big deal.
I forgot.
Let's talk just a little bit about the accomplishment that was made today, Jesse, which is basically now we've been finally have some movement to at least get a ceasefire in a small part of Syria in the southwest region, with the hope that, with a lot of details have to be worked out, that some humanitarian assistance can finally get to the innocent people that are there.
It's good news on the surface. This could have been gift-wrapped beforehand to set it up like a big achievement after the meeting. and who knows how long it's going to last. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed. I thought it was a very high-stakes meeting, and I think Donald Trump made the country proud. I think the media thinks that Donald Trump's going to come into a meeting like this with his fly down and start shining Putin's shoes. So I think when he goes in there, the expectations game helps him. The optics were good. He won the handshake game big time.
Oh, he did?
He looked comfortable and at ease and serious. And then Melania was seated next to Vladimir Putin at the dinner. They both speak German, so that looked really good. On substance, like you said, we have that accomplishment in Syria, but they also talked about cybersecurity and trade and Ukraine.
But I did think that was a little weird that we have Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, Lisa, announcing that we apparently are going to do some joint initiative with Russia on cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's a little ironic.
Really?
But look, I also think that sort of this buildup regarding the election meddling, to me, just seems grossly overbuilt. Because you look at all these other issues that we're facing as a nation and things that are President Trump should talk to Putin about and talk to Putin about. As you mentioned earlier, 500,000 Syrians killed throughout this civil war. We've got ISIS in Syria as well, which is obviously a huge threat. Russia increased trade with North Korea by 73% in the first 2 months of 2017. They're also trying to box the U.S. in with China with what we're facing in North Korea right now. North Korea now can launch an ICBM within range of Alaska. So of all the things that we are facing right now and all the threats that we're facing, not to diminish the election meddling, but it doesn't seem quite up there with some of these other things.
Right.
Well, Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin, he had a little something to say about President Trump in the meeting. Let's listen to that.
Senator, what's the most positive thing you have to say about Vladimir Putin and the most negative?
Well, the most positive thing is he is gifted in his knowledge of history. Our president is not. He certainly knows how to meet with foreign leaders and to push his agenda. Our president has limited experience in that. He knows the intelligence agencies of Russia since he was a member of the KGB for a period of time. Our president tends to deride his own intelligence agencies and their findings. So he's in a strong hand in this negotiation compared to our president.
Jesse?
Dick Durbin and the Democrats criticized Donald Trump for kissing Putin's ring for the last 6 months. He just heaped praise on Vladimir Putin like I've never heard Donald Trump ever say in his entire public career. And I think a lot of people like to believe that Vladimir Putin is this cagey, cerebral, calculating guy that gets his agenda through. That's just because he walked all over President Obama for the last 8 years and got everything he wanted in Syria, saved Obama's skin after the red line was crossed, came into Ukraine. President Obama gave the Ukrainians, our allies, food instead of heavy artillery, and then interfered in our election, allegedly, and President Obama did nothing. So, of course, Vladimir Putin looks like this very strong leader that gets everything done when he faces President Obama, who wasn't even competing.
I think that it was Donald Trump who had such high praise for Vladimir Putin. I think what Dick Durbin was doing was comparing the two, and by comparison saying Putin looks much better. But let me just say,
I've never seen any
run
down a sitting president while they were overseas like Dick Durbin just did to President Trump.
Let me just say,
can you give me an example?
It was Donald Trump today who sticks out his hand. I don't know how he won the handshake war, by the way, but anyway, he sticks out his hand and says, "It's an honor to meet you. This is an honor to meet this guy who is invading people."
That's diplomacy.
That's diplomacy? No. Because this is the guy that interfered in an American election and seeks to undermine democracy.
At least he didn't bow to him.
Let me just say, in addition to which, it's just striking to me that you get one set of description of the events from Sergei Lavrov and another set from Tillerson.
Welcome to political spin.
No,
who do you believe?
I don't. Listen, you know what I believe? Yeah. I believe Tillerson when he said, what we tried to do is not focus on the hacking or the spread of disinformation. We're trying to move forward and try to get them to promise not to do it again.
I'm glad you don't believe the Russians.
How weak is that?
Oh, you think Tillerson is weak? At least he's not John Kerry giving away billions of dollars to the Iranians.
Let me get Greg in for a second, because it is interesting that the left has spent the last 8 months or so dissing the Russians, right, and saying you can't trust them. And then today, Lavrov is out with his spin of the meeting, and they believe Lavrov?
Well, the narrative that started was even before they came out of the meeting, that Putin was already the victor. If you were watching it, he already won. And their logic was that just by meeting Putin, Putin is won. And that the longer the meeting went, the more respect Putin got. If the media had gone to see the Titanic, they would say the boat won. Because they are so screwed. Their confirmation bias has now closed their vision so narrowly, they can't see anything, including, that dick. Well, Durbin.
I also think the Democratic Party has way overreached here. The Democratic Party is way overreached here on the Russia issue. I mean, you saw recently Senator Chris Murphy saying, oh, maybe we should slow it down with all this Russia talk. 4 special elections lost. The Democratic National Committee raised, I think, $4.3 million, which is the least amount they have since 2003. And I think that this is really a disservice to the party in trying to run this narrative. And further, Durbin is basically trying to paint the president as ill-prepared to be president of the United States. Well, what did President Obama ever do before he was president? He never ran anything. How was he possibly set up to be president of the United States?
Community organizer.
Durbin endorsed him. Durbin stood behind him in 2008 to be president of the United States. So, I mean, just what a joke.
Wait a second. This guy was a state senator and a United States senator. I don't think Donald Trump was held any political office.
Billion-dollar
But here's the thing.
Last point, Juan.
Okay, so here's the thing. So the guy that I believe, who's our guy, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, says, basically, we just have an intractable disagreement. That's a quote. With the Russians, with regard to Russian interference in the election. Putin says, nah, we didn't do it. And apparently Donald Trump says, well, okay, but let's move on. This, to me, is like,
wow.
So you were in the meeting?
No, Tillerson, our guy.
I think we should invade Russia.
Apparently, we'll move on.
We should invade Russia, is what you're saying.
Invade Russia?
No, invade Russia.
Invade. No, but I'm just saying, Trump's busy tweeting about fake media.
Maybe we should be as tough as President Obama was on Russia and do nothing.
Yeah.